What can drive a human being to kill? In this series, we're exploring the various types of motives that drive characters to murder in horror movies. Motive is defined as a reason for doing something, so I want to look into the specific reasons these characters are killing within the movies themselves. I cover the purpose of this series with more detail in Chapter 1, Revenge. Since this is the second video in the series, I won't be repeating the full spiel here again. You should check out Chapter 1 if you missed that. But the gist is, each chapter will highlight films that showcase different examples of killers that represent that chapter's themes. And fair warning, this video will contain spoilers for the films I'm discussing. It would be pretty difficult to talk about a killer's motives without spoiling who the killer is. I'm going to try to put individual timestamps for the movies discussed, so you can skip a specific movie if you don't want to be spoiled. In each video of the series, I'm going to focus on a different theme. The focus of this video is desires. Now when I say desires, I'm not just talking about romantic desires, although those will be covered here. This video will be looking at desires in a broader sense. Desire is defined as a strong feeling of wanting to have something, or wishing for something to happen. It's been said that every sin begins with desire, and that includes murder. The horror villains in this video kill to attain the thing they desire. They kill to make a desired event happen. So what exactly do they desire? The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. For centuries, humans have been committing criminal acts for financial gain, and these horror villains want their cut. At first, the 2011 film You're Next seems to be your typical home invasion movie. It revolves around the Davison family, two parents and their 4 adult children who, along with their significant others, have gathered for a family retreat at their rural vacation home. The terror begins when they are attacked and terrorized by a trio of mask-wearing killers. At first, these killers seem to have no clear motive. The film's twist comes when it's revealed these killers have been hired by 2 of the family members, Felix and Crispin. Their parents are wealthy, and they want the rest of their family killed so they can collect the inheritance. Their desire for wealth is so strong, it negates any love or compassion they may feel toward their own family members. For Crispin, the murders seem to be a necessary evil. He seems uncomfortable with the whole ordeal, but it's something that just must be done. Felix, on the other hand, is far more callous about the whole thing. He doesn't seem too bothered by the slaughter of his family. They've become nothing more than an obstacle to Felix at this point, an obstacle that's in the way of the money he desires. The function of the murders in this film are to allow access to the money by removing the barriers to that money. It should be noted that the motive of murder for money also applies to the hired assassins as well.
My parents and siblings would have been killed. You'd have been untouched. And we'd be rich.
The flip side of this is seen in the Vacancy film series, where the act of killing itself is directly profitable. In Vacancy, a motel manager runs an operation where he films his guests being murdered and sells the videotapes as snuff films. The acts of murder are done solely for the purpose of creating content for an audience that's willing to pay well for that content. For the buyers of these tapes, there's a voyeuristic thrill in watching these unsuspecting motel guests get tortured and eventually killed. For the killers, it's fun, but it's also business. The setup at the motel is elaborate and designed to maximize their victims' terror and feelings of helplessness, because that's what the customers who buy these tapes desire. And when the customers get what they desire, then the motel manager and his crew get what they desire: profit.
Watching somebody die, we could sell 10,000 copies. Easy.
It's been said that there's no such thing as bad publicity. This is the cornerstone for the murders in the film Scream Park. The movie revolves around a theme park called Frightland, which is about to close due to low attendance. The park owner, Mr. Hyde, believes the only way to get people back to the park is through a violent publicity stunt. He hires 2 masked killers to stalk the park after hours, killing off members of the park staff one by one. Mr. Hyde knows that people are fascinated by death and disaster. Once the news stories about the murders hit, everyone will be talking about the park. He plans to capitalize on the murders with souvenirs and photo ops. He'll rebrand the rides to theme them after the massacre. Morbid curiosity will drive guests to the park in droves. The murders are a tool to get attention, which will drive up business, which will lead to financial gain.
We would never have to worry about profits again.
Money isn't the only asset people are willing to kill for. People have been fighting and dying over land since the beginning of time, and this tradition carries on into horror. A bloody land dispute is at the center of the 1971 giallo classic A Bay of Blood. When the wealthy Countess Federica is murdered, she leaves behind a valuable piece of beachfront real estate. The Countess's family and friends all want control of the bay for different reasons, and several of them are willing to slay the competition to get it. This begins an all-out bloody battle royal style killing spree for the property. Some of the killers are driven by pure greed, others are motivated by territorialism, but their ultimate goals are the same. They desire that land, and they're willing to kill and possibly die to make it their own.
We'll come back and the whole bay will be legally ours.
What if the thing you desire is another person? Love-obsessed villains become fixated on someone with whom they have no personal relationship. They believe they can make the object of their affection love them. When the victim doesn't respond as the villain hopes, the villain may respond with threats and intimidation, and eventually, bloodshed. In P2, Thomas Barclay is a security guard at a Manhattan office underground parking garage. Thomas has become obsessed with a businesswoman named Angela who works in the office. When workaholic Angela works late on Christmas Eve, Thomas sees this as his moment to have Angela alone. He disables her vehicle and chloroforms her. She wakes up in the security office, chained to the floor, where Thomas has planned a Christmas dinner date for the two of them. But that isn't the only surprise Thomas has for Angela. Thomas has kidnapped one of Angela's co-workers, Jim, because he saw Jim drunkenly grope Angela at a Christmas office party. Despite Angela's protests, Thomas beats Jim and murders him in front of Angela, running Jim into a wall with his car, with Angela in the passenger seat. Thomas thinks of himself as a white knight, delivering justice on Angela's behalf and restoring her honor. Thomas is so fixated on his own desires that he becomes confused and angry when Angela doesn't reciprocate his feelings. He believes he's done everything necessary to win her heart, so her constant attempts to escape the parking garage and escape from Thomas infuriate him. Now that Thomas finally has Angela, he's willing to do anything to keep her, even if it means hurting Angela and killing anyone that comes between them.
I want somebody who cares about you,
Why can't we be friends?
worries about you.
Please.
Why can't we just spend Christmas together?
Sometimes fandom can take a dark turn. In Celebrity Crush, a woman named Emily has been obsessed with 1980s cult horror film Chain-Faced Clown since she was a little girl. And she's particularly obsessed with the film's star Jonathan, a former child actor. When Jonathan comes to her town for an autograph signing, Emily uses this opportunity to meet Jonathan. She seduces him and brings him back to her house for what Jonathan believes to be a one-night stand. But Emily has other plans. She incapacitates Jonathan and imprisons him in her storage unit. Emily believes Jonathan is her soulmate, and she intends to hold him hostage until he realizes it. She kidnaps Jonathan's former co-star and two former filmmaking partners. She tortures and kills them because she believes they have mistreated Jonathan over the years. She feels her deranged actions are actually bringing her and Jonathan closer, when in fact Jonathan is horrified by the violence. Emily believes it's inevitable that she and Jonathan will be together. To her, it's a given. It's only a matter of time before Jonathan sees the light, and she's willing to do anything to make him see it.
Jonathan needs to love me and will love me!
Obsession isn't always romantic in nature. In the 2018 film The Cleaning Lady, a woman named Alice hires another woman, Shelley, to be her cleaning lady. Shelley is quiet and weird, and her face is badly scarred from burns she suffered as a child. Alice befriends Shelley and shows her kindness. Shelley becomes fixated on Alice, who she sees as nearly perfect. Shelley tells Alice she looks like a Barbie doll. Whenever Alice reveals what Shelley believes to be a character flaw, such as smoking, Shelley takes it upon herself to help Alice fix that flaw. Shelley wants to live vicariously through Alice. Shelley believes she can never be perfect thanks to her burns, so she needs Alice to be perfect. When things ruin that perfection, Shelley becomes violent. Alice is having an affair with a married man named Michael, which Shelley deems as an imperfection. Shelley kidnaps Michael and tortures him in front of Alice, forcing Alice to murder Michael to end his suffering. Alice's affair was a flaw, and Shelley demanded Alice fix that flaw. Throughout the film, we're shown flashbacks of Shelley as a child playing with a dollhouse. In that dollhouse is one blonde-haired doll. At the end of the movie, Alice has become Shelley's captive. Shelley watches Alice through the window in the same manner she watched her doll through the dollhouse window as a child. Shelley's comparison of Alice to a Barbie doll wasn't simply a compliment. Shelley was expressing her desire to have and keep Alice as her own living doll, a constant embodiment of the perfection Shelley longs for but can never attain herself.
You're perfect now.
Sometimes you don't just want someone, you want to be them. Envy is the desire for others' traits, status, abilities, or situation. You envy who they are, what they have. You envy the attention they get. Envy is often called a green-eyed monster, and some choose to feed that monster with blood. In the slasher film The Initiation, Terry Randall is the identical twin sister of the film's protagonist, Kelly Fairchild. When Terry and Kelly were children, their mother had an affair with a man named Dwight, which broke up their family. Terry tried to murder Dwight, but she was unsuccessful, and instead she's arrested and sent to a mental institution. This event traumatizes Kelly, who forgets she even has a twin sister and believes Dwight is her father. Years later, Terry escapes from the institution. She wants to finish off Dwight once and for all, but she has another motive. She tracks down her sister Kelly and starts killing Kelly's friends. Terry's goal is to frame Kelly for the murders, so she can take Kelly's identity. While Terry has been rotting away in the mental institution, Kelly has been living a life of luxury. Their mother has married the wealthy Dwight. Kelly is going to college. She has a future that Terry wishes she had. For Terry, it's unfair that she took what she believed to be justifiable actions to save her family, while Kelly did nothing, and yet Terry is the one who was punished, and Kelly is the one who was rewarded with wealth and opportunity. Terry desires Kelly's life, and she believes there's only one way she can have it, by doing the one thing she's good at: murder.
Now I'll become you!
In Scream 4, Jill Roberts is the cousin of Sidney Prescott, one of the survivors of the original Woodsboro murders. Sidney is celebrated as a hero. She has a book deal. They've made movies about her. Jill has lived in the shadow of Sidney her whole life, and she believes it's her turn now. When Sidney is visiting Woodsboro on a book tour for the 15th anniversary of the original murders, Jill sees this as the perfect opportunity to stage her own murder spree, one where she will be celebrated as the sole survivor of the new Woodsboro murders. Jill becomes the next Ghostface and begins killing off her friends and even her own family. Her goal is to emerge at the end as the big hero with all the media attention, the online fan base. While Sidney largely shunned the spotlight and was uncomfortable with her celebrity status, Jill wants to fully take advantage of it and use it to springboard her to bigger and better things. For Jill, these murders are essentially a storytelling device. Each kill is a chapter in a manufactured narrative that Jill believes will bring her the attention and fame she desires. To position herself as the next Sidney Prescott, Jill is recreating the scenario that made Sidney famous in first place, only this time, Jill is casting herself in the lead role. She's willing to sacrifice everyone closest to her because friends and family mean less to her than fans and followers.
This has never been about killing you. It's about becoming you. You had your 15 minutes. Now I want mine!
Jill isn't the only horror villain who wants to be a star. Oscar Wilde once said, "The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about." These horror villains would kill to be famous. Literally. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon takes place in a world where Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and Michael Myers aren't simply characters in movies, they're real-life serial killers. And they're legends. Everyone knows their names. Everyone knows their stories. And aspiring serial killer Leslie Mancuso, aka Leslie Vernon, wants to be just like them. Leslie invites a documentary film crew to record him as he prepares for his upcoming killing spree, where he plans to murder a group of teenagers in an old farmhouse. Leslie has been plotting these murders for a while, and his plans are meticulous. Leslie isn't shy about sharing every aspect of his gruesome plan with the filmmakers. He wants every detail documented for posterity. This massacre will be his masterpiece, a masterpiece that will give Leslie the thing he truly desires, to be immortalized as a legend alongside those other icons like Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers.
Hope you got film in those cameras, boys. School's in.
In the horror comedy Tragedy Girls, high school seniors Michaela Hooper and Sadie Cunningham have been obsessed with murder since they were children. They've turned that obsession into the cross-platform true crime brand Tragedy Girls, which features in-depth information on a range of serial killers. Sadie and Michaela run a blog, a YouTube page, and several social media accounts. They just don't have a lot of followers. Their plan is to kidnap a local serial killer nicknamed the Rosedale Ripper and try to convince him to be their partner in crime. When he refuses their offer, Sadie and Michaela decide to take over his killing spree. The girls have been obsessively studying serial killers for years. They know all the proper strategies for getting away with murder. They realize they can get the first scoop on every murder if they're the ones doing the killing. This exclusive content leads to more fans, more followers. The Tragedy Girls aren't just looking for their proverbial 15 minutes of fame, they're building a brand. They're building a future. Unlike Jill Robertson's Scream 4, their killings aren't merely a means to an end. Murder is the brand. Each kill creates Tragedy Girls content, and this content is making the girls themselves into stars.
We just need 100,000 followers by prom, and we'll be on our way.
So we steal Lowell's gross identity and use it to leverage our online presence.
Then we frame him for everything.
Exactly.
In the 2020 film Spree, Kurt Kunkel is a social media-obsessed rideshare driver who begins live-streaming himself murdering passengers in an attempt to become viral. Working as a driver for a rideshare app called Spree, Kurt outfits his car with a bunch of cameras and begins killing off his passengers, at first with poisoned water bottles and later with more inventive methods. Over the course of his murder spree, Kurt eventually builds a following, but at what cost? Unlike the Tragedy Girls, Kurt's fame is directly tied into his identity as the murderer. Kurt's plan was always going to lead to either prison or death, so he would never be able to fully capitalize on the audience he was building. Unlike the Tragedy Girls' calculated plot to achieve fame, Kurt's plan is short-sighted, designed for instant gratification at the expense of longevity. He gets the notoriety and fame he's always wanted, but he doesn't live to enjoy it.
It should be going viral by now. I just got 7. Bobby, I got 7 rideshare kills. Why isn't this trending?
Our next batch of horror villains deals with family matters. Blood is thicker than water, and some are willing to spill blood to have the family they desire. The villain in the 2007 French film Inside is known in the credits only as La Femme. This mystery woman was once pregnant, but she was involved in a car accident that kills her unborn baby. There was another survivor of the crash, the driver of the other car, a woman named Sarah. In an ironic turn of events, Sarah was also pregnant at the time of the crash, only Sarah's unborn baby survived. After the accident, the mystery woman descends into madness, devastated by the loss of her child. She tracks down Sarah, whose baby is due at any moment. The mystery woman shows up at Sarah's home and attacks her. The woman's plan is to cut Sarah open and steal the baby right out of her belly. The mystery woman blames Sarah for the death of her baby. Sarah robbed the mystery woman of the one thing she desired more than anything, to be a mother. To her, it's only fair that Sarah gives up her own baby as compensation. Throughout the night, the woman proves she will stop at nothing to get Sarah's baby, viciously killing anyone who attempts to help Sarah. It's easy to write off the mystery woman's violent approach as simple revenge. After all, she could have just waited until Sarah's baby was born before attempting to steal it. But by cutting open Sarah and physically removing the baby from Sarah's body, the mystery woman is essentially bringing the child into the world. In a twisted sense, it's the closest she can get to actually giving birth to the child herself. It's not simply the child she wants, she desires the full motherhood experience she was robbed of. A different type of family dynamic is featured in the 2017 film Jackals. The film deals with the Powells, a family who hires a cult deprogrammer to take back their son Justin from a dangerous cult he's joined. They soon find themselves under siege when the cultists arrive at their cabin, surrounding the property and demanding Justin be returned to them. The Powells believe they are saving Justin from this evil cult, even though he doesn't want to be saved. The showdown becomes a war between Justin's original blood family and this new cult family who have adopted him into their fold. Despite the fact the members of this cult are depicted as vicious, heartless monsters, they seem to truly value their twisted version of family. They send dozens of cult members to get Justin back, and these cult members are willing to kill and die to make it happen. Justin is important to them. He's their brother. He no longer belongs to the Powells, he belongs to them now.
Oh my God!
My brothers and sisters, they have come for me.
That will conclude the chapter on desires. But this series will continue with chapter 3, body parts. If that episode is done by the time you're watching this, that link will be right here or down in the description. Otherwise, you'll want to make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss the episode whenever I drop it. Until next time, later, Danger Seekers.